Okay, good morning, everybody. I hope the whiskey and the swimming went safely together, and that's what's great about this, because we're still networking when we're doing that, right? It's all good. I'd like to invite my panel up to join me, Christopher Cozier, Tanya Barson, and Sara Hermann. And we are going to move the seats, once we've done our presentations, into the middle so that everyone will get a good view of all of the speakers and dialogue. So just come and grab a chair. Actually, Sara, if you move one down, then we won't be right in the middle of this. Christopher and Tanya. So I think we're in for another exciting morning this morning. We're looking at the time of exhibitions, the historical versus contemporary practices, and specifically with relation to Caribbean art and Caribbean curating. From nation-affirming narratives hosted by newly formed national institutions, through large-scale international survey exhibitions, to increasingly critical explorations and community-based interventions, and I should add the commercial exhibitions that, of course, we all live alongside in the Caribbean for the tourism industry. How has regional curatorship and the exhibition of Caribbean art, both within the region and internationally, changed over the past few decades? This panel will explore the evolving constellation of issues that have shaped exhibition development, including concepts of time, historical legacy, geographical frameworks, conditions of visibility, to determine what new models for the display of Caribbean art might look like and which models are really working for us already. Obviously, I have quite a remarkable panel. I'm very honored to be moderating this panel today. We have invited Sara, Tanya, and Christopher in their different curatorial practices. I really wanted to make sure that we had different voices on this panel. So Sara, as you know, is an art historian, educator, and curator, and she's really going to be talking from her angle, using education and curating, and discovering a new methodology through her work at Curando Caribe, which is a program that she established at the, am I saying this right, Eduardo Leon? Central Leon, perfect, which he established in 2014. Tanya Barson, of course, is the chief curator at MACBA in Barcelona. Thank you for coming all that way. And previously at Tate, where she curated the seminal exhibition Afro-Modern, Journeys Through the Black Atlantic in 2010. She'll be speaking about that experience. And of course, I barely need to introduce this person because we heard so much about him yesterday, but artist and curator, and I think that's the really why we invited Chris, because he's coming from both of those angles and really curates through his artwork as well. Christopher Cozier, working from both inside and outside the region over many years, and he'll be speaking to many of those projects and the development of his curatorial focus during that. So if I can start by inviting Sara up to the stage, and we're going to be doing sort of 5-minute presentations, 15, and then we're going to have time for a really good dialogue at the end and Q&A. So, Sara.
Good morning, everybody. Well, you can start with the first one, but first of all, before I say the necessary thanks, I have to say that what we are going to see here are like images of the platform I am going to refer to. So they're not in any order, or they are going to be going, yeah, that's nothing. Okay, again. So good morning, and thank you, Annalie. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Even though the context does not go at the same speed or rhythm as we all do, the production of culture has proven to be our language. They say we have like 16 languages in the Caribbean, but this is our language, and we are the force, to talk in Star Wars terms. Again, I'm going to talk today about a platform, but before I talk about that platform that took shape and started about 4 years ago, I have to make some remarks. This year marks the 25th anniversary of an exhibition that took place in Bogota, Colombia, curated by Gerardo Mosquera, Rachel Baez, and Carolina Ponce de Leon. That exhibition was called Anti-America. Also, next year, and that will be I believe, the theme of the next Tilting Axis, next year will mark the 20th anniversary of Lipsticks and Marks, an exhibition curated, managed by Annalie Davis, Jocelyn Garner, and a group of 7 artists that actually make me, as a professional, question many of the things that we actually confronted in the Caribbean space. Why I mentioned these 2 historical landmarks? First, because as I told before, for me, those moments, those exhibitions which I saw at its moment, not actually telling my age in front of all these people, but for me, they were very important in terms of my professional standpoint and personal approach to the curatorial as a possibility. Not only because they question the roles of the institution of art at its moment, but both projects included Caribbean production of sense, Caribbean production of meaning. And these 2 projects were produced from our standpoint, our place, not merely responding to something else. This is relevant today because this platform that I'm going to talk about refers exactly to those 2 exhibitions. And that framework, I will pinpoint to some elements that are like the curatorial behavior, the political potential of the curatorial, the method, and finally I will ask myself and you how to behave. And one of the reasons that prompted the creation of Curando Caribe, which is the platform that I am going to talk about, was the expansion of the curatorial based in our own premises. One of the elements was the recognition, of course, of the potential, the political potential of the curatorial, and the curatorial as a methodology. The curatorial, not necessarily curatorship or being a curator, which there's a lot now, even Spotify is on curators of music. So the curatorial has a political potential because it deals with a set of practices that actually portray public discourse in the public domain. So the curators, or the people that work in the curatorial as me, has to have a responsibility and to be able to commit to the critical issues of their context or our context. The curatorial has the potential to filter, expand, influence, transform, and bring about cultural change. Consequently, we decided to use the curatorial as a methodology, not only for making exhibitions or making books, it's a methodology to work in anything. The decision was taken because of the contingencies that we face as professionals every day. That's the political potential of the curatorial. Now, the curatorial behavior, I'm going to refer that another element that played a significant role in the conception of this platform was the question we faced on the characteristic of the curatorial in our space. If we are asked what defined the curatorial in the Caribbean, we will say some people will respond precariousness, lackness, if they're looking at the more logistic point of view, or bureaucracy and obstacles if they are looking at and the more emotional point of view, I should say. But I believe one of the clearest profiles of our action has to do with the curatorial behavior. Without trying to minimize the enormous efforts of some pan-Caribbean exhibitions and efforts in terms of curatorial behavior, we have been for a long time reactive. And we have been acting defensively. And I include myself in this, of course. We have operated in response to incorrect reductionist stereotype versions of us most of the time, but the majority of the time we have been sitting in the bench waiting for our turn to talk. That's why I pinpoint those two examples of exhibitions that were made from our own premises without having to respond to anything, not reductionist views from the Venice Biennale or Documenta. No, this is something that has to do with our needs. And the Lipsticks and Marks a catalog or text, Annalie Davis referred to the gap of the curatorial in contemporary Caribbean scene. And that was 20 years ago. We're still dealing with the same lack of infrastructure. That's why this platform is so important. And that prompted us to make Curando Caribe. So you're seeing some pictures of past teachers and mediators, and Miguel is here, he was part of it. He's here, look at him. Yeah. Because in the Dominican Republic, as many of our islands or our Caribbean space, there is not an educational framework on curatorial practice, much less on visual studies or cultural studies. Not even in areas as traditional as art history and art criticism. And that's the reason why we decided to create Curando Caribe. Curando Caribe was conceived by the Centro Cultural de España and Centro León as a way to respond to the lack of mediation that provide meaning and visibility to the cultural production that grows exponentially of the island and the region. And that's why it's also a direct response to lipsticks and marks. Curando Caribe is a hybrid and multidisciplinary program that places itself as an event that is in interstitial space between contemporary art and pedagogy, I'm sorry. It's, we've had 2 editions, and it's a 9-month sustained program that generates exchanges between artists, activists, local audiences, and creators and intellectuals from the Americas and the Caribbean. What you are seeing is a model of the timeline that we have developed with the group. We have 25 alumni already. Because we saw that Node had these key moments of curating in their platform, we said, well, nobody's taking any account of what happened here, and we are actually doing a timeline of the exhibitions in the Caribbean and analyzing that. Not only the exhibitions that are made in the Caribbean, but outside, referring to the arts and production of sense in the Caribbean. This project This project, these meetings were conceived in order to contribute to the reflection and criticism on contemporary art and mechanism in the Dominican Republic and the Caribbean. Let me say that since we don't have an academic framework, our students and participants come from different areas, from philosophy to architecture to even we have students of botanics and many other things. So we have different people, different backgrounds, and the guides or teachers come also from different areas of work and interest. And that was very important to undertake this task. However, all the teachers have one thing in common. The orientation towards the definition of an ethic discourse developed from within their own place. Okay? We have, as I said, Miguel, Emiliano, Jose Roca, Alana Lockwood, Rocio Aranda Alvarado, and they have worked with the students with issues related to from the ideology and curatorship to the dialogue with of the curatorial and many other subjects. It's designed as a semi-presential modality. The workshop has a nomadic vocation. Time frames allows for it, and we had meetings in Santo Domingo, Santiago, and La Romana, and also in Puerto Príncipe and Port-au-Prince. The face-to-face meetings are held during 2 days each month and in a kind of a boot camp. And that is a pedagogy project with a different approach to teaching and learning. The curator's training workshop introduced the participant to the curatorial as a professional activity, but of course, that implies a theoretical, practical approach to the multiple cultural and creative dimensions, but also it teaches them the curatorship or the curatorial as a methodology, as a process, as a series of tools to confront everything. In this, we propose to promote a critical knowledge of the curator's profession, as well as understanding of the intersections that occurs between that field and other cultural disciplines, from the visual arts through philosophy, through communication, and critical writing. It is important to mention that in the sense of this different approach to teaching and learning, each mediator or teacher is asked to design the work sessions in relation to their specific areas of specialty, but also to the needs of the students. And these sessions are also modified through the course of the 9-month period. Finally, Curando Caribe is an approach to collective construction of knowledge that has proven to have short and medium term effects. Its long-term effects will be analyzed in another moment and maybe by another people, not me. It's a multi-layered participatory structure that as the mechanism of community building based on collective experience this is very important. It comes from the dissatisfaction with the state of things, from the dissonance due to the lacking of platforms and programs that allow an acceptable development of the cultural scene. However, even if Curando Caribe comes from dissatisfaction with the incoherence of the context, it raises something that goes beyond protest and becomes a network for the participation of multiple actors in such a way that its effects, I believe, are enduring and applicable. It proposed a certain, I think it's not modest of me to say, but I think it proposes a certain emancipation of the forms of teaching, learning, and consequently practice of the curatorial because it's polyphonic and flexible. Its two past editions have been a 9-month period of time. We had now 25 alumni. Next edition will take place in November and will be a boot camp with all the professors and all the mediators of 2 weeks in La Romana in Dominican Republic, actually in the Davidoff studios. And it's going to have both participants of both groups, and then it's going to be nomadic. It's going to move not only outside of Dominican Republic and Haiti to other places, I do hope. We think of it as a platform to generate new knowledge, to generate new processes, and actually we are searching for curatorial methodologies that actually insert our principles into the whole scene of curatorial methodology. So we actually play a role in what is said about us. I think yesterday we spoke, I think Sean Leonard talked about investment in relations. And Curando Caribe is a proof of that. We have worked with friends, this is the politics of friendship, which this is actually a proof of that. And I think it's a way to invest in the relations in the Caribbean that we need so much to invest in. So that's it. Oh, those are my students. Thinking about an exhibition from another standpoint. Let's all do that. Thank you.